we're all about the Thanksmas thing. I mean, disclaimer, we've already put our Christmas lights up. So last Saturday, so Halloween ends, wreaths go up, Christmas tree. We started that last year.
Yes.
So we enjoy it though, just being able to enjoy the decorations for a couple weeks.
Do you at least
longer.
take your costumes off for Halloween before you put the Christmas tree up? Or do you do it while you're in your costume?
So
Funny you should ask.
twofold answer to that. So when we went trick-or-treating Friday night, I was Clark Griswold.
That's perfect.
He did a merge.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So I had the Santa hat. So I woke up Saturday morning with the Santa hat still on. So I was still still partly in costume.
Yes,
so it worked out good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of my friends on Facebook was funny. She posted like at 11:45 on Halloween night, "Merry Christmas, everyone." It made me laugh because it's
Yep.
true. As soon
Yeah.
as Halloween's over,
Yep.
Yeah.
Flip the switch.
99.5 starts playing Christmas music.
Welcome to Behind the Lines, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of your electric cooperative. I'm Conni Tucker, and this is my co-host, James Taylor. And today we're diving into a topic that really sets us apart from other utilities, capital credits. And if you've ever wondered what they are, why they matter, how they benefit you as a member, today you're in the right place. Joining us today are two experts from our accounting department, Tabitha Whitlow, Vice President of Finance, Accounting, and Billing, and Carol Wylie, our capital credit accountant. So you have the right people here to tell you what you need to know. Tabitha's been with Central Electric since 1999. She started in billing and customer service and eventually moved into accounting, and she earned both her BS and her master's from Methodist and is now she's been the VP of Finance since 2016. And Carol has been with Central since 2013, and she served in various roles, but her primary focus now is capital credit accounting. So she is definitely the expert today. She earned her undergraduate degree from UNC Wilmington and her master's from UNC Chapel Hill. Go Heels.
Go Tar Heels.
I am outnumbered.
So let's just start with the basics. And I'll preface all this by saying I've been here about a year and a half now, and capital credits is something I've really worked to try to understand. And I might be about 80% there, which I feel really confident about that. But our members hear the term capital credits often. We talk about it a lot. But what exactly are they, and why do we return them to our members?
Cooperatives are a not-for-profit, so we strive to operate as close to our expenses as possible, bringing in enough revenue to cover our expenses. Capital credits are whatever's left over, so any margins after we cover all of our expenses, that's what we call our capital credits. We return those capital credits because as a cooperative, we have our seven cooperative principles. And this goes along with our cooperative principle of members' economic participation. So our members, not only do they equitably share in our profits, but they also democratically help control how our capital is paid for and how we distribute that equity.
So how does this concept make us different? I led in by saying that it sets us apart from other utilities. Well, how does it do that? How does it make us different than an investor-owned utility, for example?
Well, an investor-owned utility, they take their margins at the end of the year and they give it to their shareholders. We give it back to our members. And there is a formula for that. But at the end of the day, we 100% are in support and giving back everything to our members.
And I think, one thing I think about, a lot of people, we're an electric cooperative, so we're all in on the electric cooperative idea, but there's a lot of cooperatives out there, right? A lot of people don't know REI is a cooperative. So Land O'Lakes, I didn't know that. That's a farming cooperative. I started looking up last week some different cooperatives out there, and, the butter company is a farming cooperative, but State Employees Credit Union is a cooperative. So, there's a lot of different types of cooperatives out there. But I was looking at an analogy for capital credits as well. It's kind of like a community garden, right? So if people bring seeds or equipment or labor, and you kind of bring those in. And at the end of the day, the idea of the cooperative is you pay the expenses and then there's some left over. And so then the members of the community take what's left of the garden after the expenses have been paid for maintaining the garden. So Carol, we'll shift to you now. You work with capital credits day in and day out. So in terms of like dividing up that garden, or in our case, the margins for capital credits, how does that work? Can you talk to us a little bit how they're calculated and how we determine each member's share of the capital credits?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a cute analogy. Yeah, I like that. Well, as Tabitha said, capital credits are what make us unique. Each year after we close the books, those margins are allocated back to members based on how much electricity they use. So it's proportional to their usage. The more electricity used, the larger your share of the margins. We track those, they're allocated to members, and they do accrue over time. As far as distribution or general retirement, that's when the board gets together and votes and says we have the financial health to return some of these margins back to our members.
And, Conni kind of alluded to it, that capital credits is probably, when we push out communications content, one of probably the most widely engaged content that we send out. So when we push out an email, Carol knows that firsthand, and Tabitha as well, because when we push out information on unclaimed capital credits, we get a lot of questions back, which is understandable, right? And one of those questions that we kind of get pretty often is, why so long? 18 years is the retirement schedule we're on now. And sometimes people, have the question of, why not return it right now? Yeah. So can you talk to us about why, why the 18 years and why there's kind of that lag in returning the capital credits?
Definitely. If I can steal your farming analogy for a second here, capital credits is kind of like growing grapes but harvesting wine, right? You do it well, you're slow, you're deliberate, but maybe in the end you have something to celebrate. So that's kind of the concept. The reason it takes a while is because we operate on this long-term financial cycle. Capital credits typically are retired many years after they are earned, but that's because the co-op needs the financial ability to invest in infrastructure, respond to emergencies, future improvements without requiring us to take out loans that we pay, or as many loans that we would have to pay interest on. So it is a conservative approach, but it is for the benefit of our members and the co-op itself.
Y'all are really impressing me with these analogies. Like I'm not on board yet. I'm thinking, I'm trying, but that's a great one. Thinking about the grapes and the wine, because there's time involved, and you're investing in yourself. We are investing in the health of our cooperative, and then when the time is available, when it makes sense, we're able to return those credits. So, Carol, what happens if a member? So, since we've got this 18-year, time that we're working on, somebody could move away, and they were a member, but now they're no longer a member. What happens to their capital credits? Or what if someone passes away during that time? What happens to their?
If a member moves, their capital credits will remain on their account, and they are paid out on the normal retirement cycle. That's why it's really important that we keep good addresses, even for our former members. If a member passes away, the next of kin or the state is eligible to apply for a one-time lump sum payment of those capital credits. It does require some paperwork, but we try and make that as easy and painless as possible. So if someone is going through that, I would encourage them to contact the office when they're ready, and we can walk them through that process.
Okay. So what if, you mentioned it's really important to keep up with contact information. So what if someone moves away and they don't update us and we can't find them and we don't have their contact information? What happens to those unclaimed capital credits?
So if we do lose touch with a member and they become unclaimed, we attempt to reach that member as many ways as we can. We will do mailings, emailings, the news blasts you send out, even social media posts to try and find these members. If they remain unclaimed, they are turned over to the state in a process called escheatment.
Okay. And one thing I think it's important for our members to realize is there's a list on our website all the time of unclaimed capital credits. And if you find your name on that list, all you have to do is click your name and fill out a form and start the process. And so I think that's a really good improvement we've made recently, where that's really easy for members to do. If they do, and you can search for people or people that have moved away, and then let them know they can go and click on that.
And we really encourage people to do that. The last thing we want to do is send that money to the state and it remained unclaimed. Carol is really good about, when someone calls in, even checking with nccash.com to make sure we've not cheated something in years past, and helping direct them to that. Because it's our members' money, and we would like for it to go, to our member or to the member's family, instead of the state getting it.
Sure. Build on kind of what you were saying too. There's a lot of great resources on our website now on that capital credits page. You two did a fantastic job of building out a FAQ recently, and so when we send out that communication material, there's some fantastic resources on that website page. So.
Well, I will brag on that for just a minute. I had an email from a member 2 weeks ago, and he said, "I've just spent the morning reading the FAQ," and I was like, "Oh." But he said, "I've been a member since, I think it was like 2012 or 13, and he said, and I've never received a capital credit, and I didn't understand why, but I've spent the time reading the FAQ, so help me. I think this is what I understand. It's this many years. I can probably expect something." It was great. And I was like, yes, you're exactly right. Good job.
So, to switch gears for a second, we talked about capital credits, how they're calculated, and, they benefit the member through value back to our members, the not-for-profit model. There's also a benefit to the co-op as a financing mechanism for short-term, long-term debt financing, but it's not as simple as just giving back capital credits. There's a thorough process that you have a relationship and conversations with the board. Can you kind of talk us through that? So what does that process look like? How do we decide when to retire capital credits, and how does what influences that decision?
Well, it all has to do with our financial health. There are ratios that we have to attain and maintain to meet our debt service covenants with our lenders that we have now. Once we look back and see how healthy we have been, and look forward to see what's on the horizon and make sure we can keep those, the board will gladly vote to do a general retirement, because we do want to get this money out to our membership as on just as regular basis as we can, and as quickly as we can. We do pay our capital credits out in a first in, first out basis. So the earlier years get the money first. So like you said, we're about 18, 19 years. So we will retire everything out from the earlier years first unless we do an early retirement for a deceased member.
And it's all about financial health. Picked up on that, what you just said. And going back to the conversation on the 18-year, it's all about maintaining, so we retain those for 18 years because it's a benefit to the membership. It helps us, instead of going out in the open market and getting loans to finance improvements on the system or whatever it may be, we can retain that at a cost that's beneficial to the membership.
Correct.
That's what it's all about, the not-for-profit model. At the end of the day, you mentioned earlier that as close to that cost as possible, and retaining those capital credits is a huge part of that. But then also the value back to the member, being able to give that back to the membership over time. And we're in a very strong financial condition, and we obviously had over the last few years rising costs, a lot of challenges, but we have a general retirement coming up this year. This will be 17 years in a row.
17th consecutive year, yeah.
What can members expect? Can you kind of talk to us about the general retirement a little bit?
Sure. We were happy to announce at our annual meeting this year that we are doing the 17th consecutive retirement. This will include the balance of margins from 2006 and about 80% of 2007. So it'll be a retirement of about $1.1 million. I think it's 18 million that we have retired in the last 17 consecutive years. The board's really proud of that. We're really proud of it, to be able to do that and maintain the equity that we need to continue to be healthy. These retirement checks, anything over $25 will probably hit people's mailboxes around Thanksgiving, maybe a little bit before, hopefully, if everything goes right. Technology, there can be some bumps in the road. Anything under $25, if you have an active account, will be applied to the next bill. So if you had service in 2006, 2007, be on the lookout for either a bill credit or for a check. It's amazing the amount of checks that go unclaimed, uncashed, again, because of, like Carol said, not having good addresses in the system, or, people just not being used to getting mail from us and thinking it's junk mail. Open anything that says Central Electric in November, because it might be a check. And we definitely want our members to cash those and have the benefit of it.
So, since everybody's going to watch this podcast and suddenly want to update their information because they want to make sure that they get that check, Carol, what should they do? What should they do if they have questions or they do need to update their information?
Yeah. Well, a great place to start is the website. As James mentioned, it's got a lot of resources available there. It's great. They can do it online. They are welcome to call into customer service. We have a fantastic customer service team who can help them with that. Or they can always call me. I'd be happy to help them with that also. So,
I want to shift gears for just a minute and talk about your jobs and what you do. So, a lot of times when people think of jobs at the co-op, they think of a line worker, or maybe a member service representative, because those are probably the two people that they've interacted with at some point. But we have a lot of other jobs that keep this place running on a daily basis, and our accounting department is really important. So what would you say to people who are maybe considering a career in accounting, or who are already in a career, but they've never thought about working at a cooperative? What are the advantages of working in finance at the cooperative specifically? And what do you think are the best parts of your job?
I would say go for it. It's a great place to work. I love my job. But it's a neat thing. It's a rewarding thing, especially being in the accounting department. You get to see what our money does. I was born in Lee County. I've spent a large part of my life either living or working here. And so maybe when I was a child, I didn't know what the co-op was, but that green ball is very, you see it, you recognize it. And so I grew up seeing the things it does in the community, the impact it has. And now as an accountant here, I get to see just what it does, what our money does. And we give back to the community, and we give back to our employees. I get to participate in outreach. As we were talking about earlier, this week, the co-op is involved with donating food and serving meals at the breadbasket. And our department worked handing out bags with items for warmth in the community, and it's a really rewarding thing to see. It gives you the good feels that sometimes you don't get in an accounting position. So,
and to kind of start to bring our conversation full circle. Love what you said there. The co-op. There's so many things, right? The community, keeping the lights on, getting the lights back on. There's so many, different things that go on a daily basis at the co-op. But also capital credits is probably one of the defining characteristics of the co-op. One thing we talk about is the difference between a co-op and an investor-owned utility, the not-for-profit model. capital credits is what's behind the not-for-profit model, the value back to the membership after the expenses have been covered. And so, Tabitha, you mentioned the general retirement. So we have a general retirement coming up. If you had service in 2006 or 2007, your checks should be hitting your mailboxes by the end of this month. What do we always say, by Thanksgiving? Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, we try to get it out for Black Friday shopping. That's always been our goal. And I think we've been successful in it for quite some time. It's a lot of checks. It's normally somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 checks that go out. So it is a big undertaking. Mm-hmm. Carol heads 90% of that, so it's a lot that goes into it, but it is a rewarding thing. Knowing that we're giving back to our members the money that is deserved to them, that is owed to them, and she works tirelessly trying to get that escheated money. We call it gains until we escheat it. Trying to get those gains back to our members, because the last thing we want to see is it go unclaimed and our members not get the money that they deserve, because that is part of being a cooperative member, is being able to, like I said at the beginning, share equitably in our cooperative.
So if you had service in 2006 or 2007, look out for general retirement check. Or if you had service a long time ago and you just, I hadn't seen the check, go to our website, cmcpower.com, capital credits page.
Absolutely.
Listing there. If you have any questions, reach out to our member service team. Carol would absolutely love to talk to anyone who might have questions about capital credits. So thank you to you both for being here and just kind of walking through the capital credit process, what it is, and what's coming up on the horizon with the general retirement. I know you have a busy week ahead of you next week.
Yes.
So but thank you to all the listeners for tuning in with us today. Third episode of Behind the Lines now, so super excited about the conversations we've had, conversations that we're gonna have in the coming months. But until next time, happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Absolutely.
Thanksgiving is right around the corner, so we wish all the best to you and your families, and hope everyone has a season full of joy and gratitude. So take care, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.